While firefighters are dealing with a forest fire, a scientist, who wants to save the heroic robot named the White Mountain, rushes to the scene. However, the firefighters restrain him and say there is nothing they can do. Our protagonist, Gesicht, a Europol investigator, wakes up from a nightmare. He goes to the living room and looks at a report about the death of White Mountain. He then goes to work and promises to take his wife Helena on a trip soon. Gesicht investigates an apartment officially owned by Bernard Lanka, a leading proponent of robot rights laws. He meets with Inspector Wallace and believes that the thief did not commit the crime. Wallace shows him a body with metal horns. One of his men gets a call from someone and they all go to the scene. They find an injured officer who tells him that he and his fellow robot soldier, Robbie, were injured at the checkpoint. Wallace is confused that a soldier bot can take this damage. Another officer informs our team of a male suspect fleeing to the Old Town redevelopment zone. Gesicht leaves Wallace behind to check things out on his own. He finds the culprit and asks him who he works for. The culprit says he works for a man named Schultz and reveals his location. Gesicht then shares his theories about how the drug addict caused Bernard's murder. He visits Robbie's house and tells her what happened to him. Robbie's wife says he is an aging robot model who works as a servant for a human family. Gesicht asks Robbie's wife if she wants him to erase some of his memory data. Robbie's wife asks Gesicht not to erase any memories of Robbie. At headquarters, Gesicht and his comrades analyze the pictures that they took of the crime scenes. His companions wonder why Bernardo's body has strange pillars. Gesicht shows them a photo someone took of Mont Blanc in the forest. They notice that both images have similar pillars, which makes them wonder if the same person is responsible for these events. He believes a rogue robot is responsible for the attack, even though Article 13 of the International Robot Laws states, "A robot must not harm or kill humans." He and the scientist visit the stone on the pedestal from the beginning of the episode. He explains that they wanted to build a statue of Mont Blanc on it, but Blanc objected to their offer because it would disturb the beauty of the Alps. He also told people that he knew he would die one day. As Blanc's father figure, the scientist disputes the tornado story he heard from the authorities that day and wants Gesicht to catch his son's killer. Gesicht visits Dr. Hoffman's care check. Like the scientist, Dr. Hoffman does not believe that the White Mountain died of natural causes. He takes the case of Blance, but believes that his industry has made him more of a target for murder than Blance. However, he is confused by the murders and hopes that Gesicht can solve them. Gesicht asks him if humans can invade the area without leaving biological traces. Hoffman isn't sure, but promises to give him a better answer soon. Gesicht outlines his planned trip with his wife. Hoffman suggests that they visit Japan, preferably Tokyo. He brings up Gesicht's strange dreams and finds it fascinating that robots can dream. She plans to discuss this further with him on her next visit. Gesicht notices a garbage worker removing Robbie's remains and asks the worker if he can take them with him for analysis. The clerk says that's great, because in the end, it's all rubbish which triggers Gesicht's memories of something. Gesicht gives Robbie's wife Robbie's memory request. His wife asks him to shred Robbie and doesn't care about the consequences. Robbie's wife finds some important clue and projects it on the big screen for Gesicht to analyze. The tape shows a drug user injuring Robbie's partner, Robbie reacting to the situation by raising a gun, and a drug user knocking him out with a lead pipe. After further analyzing the footage, Gesicht notices someone rising into the sky between Lanki's apartment and another building. Gesicht wonders why the forensics team didn't notice this sooner. Robbie's wife concludes that it is not a robot. Gesicht visits the facility and receives information from the scientist about the person he plans to interrogate. The scientist warns him to be careful because 4 robots killed the person he meets. Gesicht meets with Brow 1589 and Brow thinks he wants to discuss the situation that happened 8 years ago with the robot that killed the man. He informs Burl about Bernardo's death in the crime scene. Gesicht asks Brute if he believes a man or a machine is responsible for ending Bernard's life. Burrow admits that people have analyzed his killer AI and found nothing wrong with it. Gesicht shows Brawley 2 photos showing the bodies of Bernardo and Blanca Manto with protruding horns. Brow says that the horns remind him of the god of death. Brow believes that the culprit will strike again, and that the culprit could be one of the 6 high-class robots capable of mass destruction like Gesicht himself. A person named North Number 2 arrives at Sir Duncan's household. North Number 2 says he is her new butler with military experience. During dinner, Duncan asks North about the 39 deaths during the Central Asian War. North says he can't kill people and also shares information about harming robots, which shocks Duncan. Duncan tells her to leave him alone. North explores Duncan's music room and plays his piano until Duncan arrives and tells him to stop. Duncan reveals that he does not need the devices in the room because he considers the machines to be rebels. He says he despises machines so much that he refuses to look at artificial intelligence. Duncan talks about a beautiful view from Bohemia, his homeland, and wants to recreate this beauty through music. North watches Duncan as he sleeps and notes the tune he hums. In the morning, he touches Duncan's piano again, and Duncan tells him to stop. North advises Duncan to add melody to his bohemian ways with his humming at night. He steps it up a bit, which results in Duncan telling him to leave the room. North asks Duncan to teach him the piano. He wants to produce real music because Duncan believes that machines cannot do it. Duncan says that North belongs on the battlefield with the other machines. Duncan reveals details about his dream and his past in the North. He says he's not Paul Duncan. He's Paul Holly. He grew up in a poor single-parent household, suffered from a severe eye disease. Unfortunately, his mother left him because of his wealth. He lived in an English boarding school and had no friends, but continued to pursue music. He says that one day the doctor contacted him with an experimental proposal. He accepted his offer of surgery and saw small improvements. However, his eyesight was getting worse every day. Holly says she wanted to create this bohemian-inspired piece to prove to his late mother why their true treasures should never be thrown away. Holly says he will write North a letter of recommendation so he can leave the house tomorrow. As Holly wanders in his garden, he hears North playing the piano again. As North plays, he remembers the moments during the war when he killed his robot brother. Holly admits that the North has improved somewhat. At night, Holly sees North preparing to leave tomorrow. He hears North mumbling and wonders if he's having a nightmare. In the morning, Holly tries to play his piano, but struggles. He asks North for advice, but remembers that he is no longer around. Holly receives a message from a photographer who works for MCM Pictures, tells Holly that they canceled his upcoming show. Holly looks at his piano again and plays the tune North suggested he try. As he plays, he remembers a nightmare he had a while back. Enraged by the sight, Holly attacks his piano. North stops him and says that he went on a trip to Bohemia to collect the folk songs of that region. He tells Holly that he found the tune he hums in his sleep. He wants to sing it to him, but Holly refuses to hear it. North argues that Holly shouldn't see his dream as a nightmare because it shouldn't be written off like North's night vision. North says that he relives his dream several times and accidentally sees himself killing thousands of his own kind. North said he met an old man who knew Holly's mother. The man said that his mother once sang the melody, "Holly hums beautifully," which shocked Holly. North says that he has information from his mother, who promises that she did not leave him when he had the disease. He says she turned to the millionaire Jonathan to deal with the financial problems. North claims that the surgeon who previously helped Holly because of his mother's involvement. His mother was also by his side even when he went blind. Holly doesn't believe it, but North feels that he is leaving out an important detail in his dreams. He says that the old man told him that Holly and his mother once sang this melody together, holding hands. North sings a song, forcing Holly to remember the entire memory. Holly tells North that he does not want him to go to the battlefield and asks him to play the piano with him. After playing some more piano, Holly tells North that he composed a bohemian song. North, on the other hand, feels something approaching them. They discuss the Swiss news about Mont Blanc and his death. Believing it's not just a tornado, North begins to tackle the problem. After fighting the crash with everything he has, North dies. Holly hears the North singing a melody and weeps when he realizes that his beautiful robot friend has just met his demise. The episode ends with Gesicht meeting a young boy named Adam. Episode 2 begins with Superintendent Tawashi and his comrade investigating a crime scene regarding a legal scholar named Junichiro Tazaki. Tawashi plans to interrogate everyone in the anti-robot law groups. Tawashi notices horns sticking out of Tazaki's body and a few destroyed homes. One of his men informs him about the cases that cropped up in Switzerland and Germany involving Bernard and Mont Blanc. Someone informs him about Gesicht and his robotic origins. We cut to Gesicht and Adam at a restaurant. They discuss Adam's involvement with the 39th Central Asian War. Adam confirms he went there to defend the peace in that nation and wasn't expecting the pop star treatment he received. As they eat, Adam discusses why he likes pretending to be human and strives to understand them. Gesicht finds Adam's design impressive since he can feel touched by life's marvels so easily. He comments on Adam's childlike appearance and knows his model is superior to his own. Adam confirms people found his design amusing, leading them to sell him off to a circus. This triggers Gesicht for a bit. He brings up North and Mont Blanc's cases to Adam because he feels the killer is after the 7 most advanced robots in the world, Adam and himself included. Adam asks Gesicht to fork over his memory chip. Adam feels it could assist him in leading Gesicht toward possible clues. After inserting the chip into his body, Adam promises to delete any personal data he receives from it. He excuses himself to the restroom and tells Gesicht this is a habit he developed while mimicking human behavior. In the restroom, Adam cries due to all the information he's received from Gesicht's memory chip. They walk off somewhere, and Gesicht confirms he'll be leaving Japan soon because he has much work waiting for him and wants to speak with the other robots. Adam jokes with Gesicht about his wife, but promises they will both be okay. Meanwhile, Tawashi visits the Metropolitan Police Department's Forensics Division and asks for an update on Tazaki's body. His comrade, Inspector Nakamura, tells him that they declared he died by suffocation, baffling Tawashi. He asks his men to put up a 3D replica of the crime scene. Tawashi tells his comrade he has a hunch who the perpetrator might be as Adam makes his presence known to him. Adam says he has an admissions pass and tells Tawashi he spoke with Gesicht and obtained data about Mont Blanc and North's cases. Tawashi belittles Adam for his robotic nature and argues that a robot committed the crime. Adam finds clues from the crime scene's rubble, pointing to a human being the perpetrator. Tawashi doesn't believe Adam's deduction since he feels human couldn't have wrecked the house in this fashion. Tawashi brings up statements he received from witnesses to prove his point. However, Adam asks him to present him with a 3D replica of Tazaki's body. This triggers Adam to recall Gesicht's meeting with Brow, where he explains how the horns have connections to a being named Pluto. Adam notices ink on Tazaki's hands and uses his abilities to follow a trail of wet footprints. This leads him, Nakamura, and Tawashi toward several business cards. Tawashi spots a card with ink and fingerprints on it, surprising Adam. Adam meets with Professor Ochanomizu, who is in the middle of telling someone that he doesn't plan to create robots for war purposes. Adam asks him questions about Lanke and Tazaki. Ochanomizu learns about Lanke's passing from Adam. Adam presents Ochanomizu with his business card, the same one he and the inspectors found, and warns him that he and the other members of the Bora Inquiry Commission are in danger. Ochanomizu explains how Bora formed out of suspicion of the Persia Kingdom, harboring robots of mass destruction. Persia was ruled by Darius, who treated the nation's robots and humans poorly. He planned to conquer all of Central Asia, but a treaty called the Prohibition of the Manufacture of Robots of Mass Destruction, passed by the UN, ruined those plans. Osamu states that President Alexander of the United States of Thracia leveled accusations against Persia, resulting in the Bora Inquiry Commission getting dispatched there. Osamu says he doesn't know what Bora stood for, but confirms he, Lanke, and Tazaki were members. He says the UST confirmed no robots were there, but Osamu heard of a rumor concerning Dr. Goji. He says Goji is an alleged scientist who was rumored to have worked on the Persia Kingdom's destructive robots. However, he says this is a mere rumor and that no one has seen him nor knows his real name. He confirms visiting a mosque in Persia, and the kingdom claimed it was a waste area of unusable bots. We transition to a scene from the 39th Central Asian War. A man asks Mont Blanc if he's okay as another gentleman shares how many robots he destroyed so far. Blanc confirms he defeated a lot of bots and wonders what they're doing here. The man confirms Adam's arrival with the peacekeepers and contemplates Blanc's questions. He wonders if the robots they defeated were their true targets, or if they should direct their hate toward other beings. Gesicht visits Brando after his robot sumo match. He visits Brando at his apartment and meets his wife, Mine, and their kids. After dinner, Gesicht and Brando discuss Brando's life regarding his wife's worry for his safety in the robot adoption system that allowed him to obtain children. Brando says he wasn't afraid of dying before, but now that he has kids, he doesn't want to die. He feels Blanc felt that way too, and reflects on how much fun he had with him. Gesicht brings up North and tells Brando the individual who killed Blanc is after him. Brando welcomes the challenge and plans to make the perpetrator pay for killing Blanc. Gesicht warns him to be careful and to let him know if anything dangerous happens. The two head out for a while and discuss Brando's kids more. Brando says Gesicht should consider having some of his own, which triggers the same memory he's been having involving an elderly man. And Brando tells Gesicht to visit him if anything bothers him, and they part ways. Gesicht visits Hercules, the same robotic humanoid who was proposing questions to Blanc during the 39th Central Asian War flashback. Gesicht praises Hercules for his victory, and Hercules says he can't wait to combat Brando soon. He asks Gesicht for his thoughts about humans' fascination with building monuments after specific people. Hercules believes they build these things to remember individuals worthy of praise. He compares humans' memory capabilities to robots and says he developed murderous intent during the war. However, since the war ended, Hercules says he can't destroy his opponents. Gesicht feels Hercules is developing compassion, and Hercules questions if they're evolving as organisms. Meanwhile, Brando recalls Blanc's heroism for a bit before his kids interrupt his train of thought. His kids scold him about a zoo trip, but Brando says he'll take them later because he has important matters to attend to. Brando receives a call from one of the arena's workers, who scolds him for taking a cargo truck and his battlesuit somewhere. He tells the worker not to worry about it, ends the call, and continues driving. We cut to Adam asking Osamu if he thinks a human is responsible for the murders that occurred so far. Osamu says it could be a combination of the two. He reminds Adam Brow is the only droid who murdered humans in the past. Osamu admits Brow's AI was perfect, baffling Adam since he's unsure how an AI with no defects could kill a human. Meanwhile, Brando gets into his suit and notices the same tornado from the reports he heard from Gesicht. Gesicht senses Brando's in danger and warns Hercules and Adam about what's happening. Brando says he's about to make the perpetrator pay. Gesicht picks up on Brando's location and tells Hercules, and the two rush to the scene. Brando tells them the enemy is strong. Gesicht, Adam, and Hercules get a glimpse of the perpetrator through telekinesis. Brando gets sent to the sea and tells the others he damaged the enemy. However, he doesn't feel like he'll be surviving for too long. He tries sending them data on the enemy he fought, but sends them memories of him and his family instead. Brando thinks his circuits got torn up during the fight with the enemy and apologize. Brando asks Gesicht to tell his children not to worry about him and perishes. As Gesicht and Hercules hover over the ocean, Adam asks them if they saw the signals mixed in with the alerts Brando sent. Gesicht confirms he didn't. Adam says it came from an AI that spiraled out of control. Adam brings it up on the monitor, and everyone from Gesicht to Hercules is baffled by the sight before them. They question what it could mean. Meanwhile, we cut to a news report from the Blue Mosque Coliseum in Istanbul. As people mourn Brando's death and construction workers clean up the scene, a fight promoter named Al Haft scolds Hercules for spending time grieving Brando's demise and not preparing for his upcoming title match. Hercules questions why these men haven't found anything on the perpetrator. Suddenly, several men tell Hercules they found Brando's arm in a strange location. Hercules leaves with the men to the site. He notices Brando's arms are in the form of a horn alongside Brando's memory chip. After realizing the killer's still alive, Hercules screams Brando's name in utter rage. Episode 3 kicks off with Inspector Nakamura stumbling upon a fresh crime scene where a tornado has ravaged a truck packed with animals. He's promptly informed that these animals are now forming a curious circle around a young boy. As Nakamura watches in bewilderment, a young girl strolls up to the critters, casually requests their attention, and persuades them to chill out. The officers are instructed to put their guns down, and Nakamura realizes this cool cat is none other than Uran, Adam's sister. Nakamura and his partner give Uran the third degree to understand her Dr. Dolittle-like abilities. Later, Nakamura bumps into Adam, who apologizes for his sister's antics, and the two head towards the non-human pathway. Adam picks up on some weird vibes from a dude entering the human pathway, but Uran's too busy trying to get his attention to notice. Meanwhile, Tawashi is having a chinwag with Professor Abdullah, the same guy Adam found so fishy. Abdullah, who's a big brain from Persia, tells Tawashi he's in town for Tokyo's World Science Conference, part of the post-war makeover. Tawashi quizzically grills Abdullah about Tazaki, since Abdullah was the last person to see Tazaki before his untimely shuffle off this mortal coil. Elsewhere, Uran and Adam are deep in conversation about robot emotions, pondering if robots might actually get feelings better than humans do, but just can't show it. Adam confides in Uran about the weird vibe he got from Abdullah, admitting he couldn't figure out if the guy was human or bot. Abdullah, meanwhile, sets off the sensors at the human gate and explains he's mostly robot now, thanks to a war injury. He mentions the animal truck incident, and Uran gets a sense something's not right, although she can't put her finger on it. She jests that Adam was the most freaked out, and they continue their stroll. Meanwhile, Gesicht and his wife Helena are reminiscing about Brando's demise, and are thrown off by a tourist who claims she registered for the same trip 2 years ago, even though Gesicht and Helena were in Spain back then. This oddity leads Gesicht to Hoffman for a checkup. Hoffman gives him a clean bill of health, but Gesicht is paranoid about memory tampering and shares his theory about possible false memories and missing recollections. Hoffman, intrigued, takes this up with director Schelling, who dodges the question and instead asks about the remaining robots like Gesicht. Hoffman reveals there are only 4 left, and Schelling, dodging further, tells him to keep Gesicht in good shape before dashing off to a meeting. Gesicht, not letting it drop, investigates a new crime scene where the victim's left in a familiar but slightly sloppy state. He calls it out as a copycat job since this killer left clues the original didn't. Inspector Fersen applauds Gesicht's sleuthing, but is taken aback when Gesicht asks if they've met before, implying his memory should be more reliable than a human's. With a scene of a family of 3, the husband and wife chat about the husband's brother who passed away 3 years ago and had a criminal streak, leaving us on a note of familial mystery. The wife is flabbergasted that the authorities won't let her hubby claim his brother's body despite all the red tape. Cut to the husband, Adolf, who's on the road. He meets a guy and they gossip about a robotic judge's untimely demise, chanting "death to machines" like it's a new mantra, revealing they're card-carrying members of an anti-robot club. Adolf swings by the institute, reclaims his brother's body, and makes a beeline for Dr. Schiller's office. They dissect the corpse, and Adolf is floored by what they discover. Later, at a restaurant, Adolf's wife shares her spicy takes on robots. Adolf warns her to zip it, reminding her about the universal robot rights protection laws. Adolf exits for a mysterious errand and bumps into Gesicht, who's in the middle of thwarting an armed robbery. After Gesicht plays hero, Adolf heads to a mansion brimming with anti-robot fanatics. He fills in the cult leader about his brother being turned into a meat smoothie by a robot's weapon, much to the leader's shock. Adolf points out the weapons made of zirconium alloy, just like what Gesicht used at the robbery. The cult leader eyes Gesicht as a prime suspect, which riles up Adolf. Adolf begs for power to take down Gesicht. Meanwhile, Hercules suits up for his final showdown, thanking his supplier and announcing his retirement from the Fight Club. Simultaneously, spokesperson Wagner is grilled by reporters about Gesicht's zirconium alloy shell. They fret over its human pulverizing potential, but Wagner assures them that Gesicht needs a hall pass to use it and will always avoid squishing humans. The cult leader watches the news and asks Adolf for his 2 cents. The leader advises smearing Gesicht's name and planning their moves with finesse. He hints at Adolf's brother's shady past, cautioning that public knowledge of it could tank their cause. Hercules, en route to something big, gets intercepted by Epsilon, one of the elite 7 robots. Epsilon shares their tragic backstory of abuse and explains why they dodged the war. It lacked a righteous cause. Epsilon boasts about forming beautiful bonds with human kids, fearing that growing human-robot camaraderie might spell disaster. They preach unity to end the cycle of hate. Adolf, on a mission, shops for a top-notch war weapon to take on Gesicht. He reminisces about his tough childhood, with a father who got branded a thief by a robot, and later took his own life. As adults, Adolf's brother gifts him a portable prep school device, and reveals he's been in scraps with robots. He urges Adolf to study hard and dream of a robot-free world. Adolf tails Gesicht into a forest, where Gesicht is chatting with Epsilon about Brando's untimely demise and his hunt for the killer. Epsilon insists they must put the brakes on Hercules to avoid sparking another war. They chew over Persian War Syndrome, a gnarly psychological illness born from war trauma. Epsilon shares that many kids he looks after are battling its symptoms, and one kid keeps babbling about Bora, the made-up organization involving Ochanomizu, Blanc, and Tazaki. Meanwhile, Uran gets a funny feeling about a nearby animal before heading to school. She convinces Adam to cover for her, so she can play superhero. In a redevelopment zone, Uran finds a male robot who's in need of an energy boost. After fetching it for him, the robot thanks her, admitting he doesn't remember much about himself, but recalls running from something. Uran admires the abstract art the robot painted on the wall, though he has no clue what he was aiming for. As they hang out more, Uran brings him clothes and discovers his art is a field of flowers, bringing her to tears. The next morning, just as she's about to meet her robot friend, Adam stops her. Uran fibs that she found a robotic cat and promises an introduction when the time is right. Uran meets the robot man near a field of flower bushes. He uses his powers to revive some dead flowers and feels this is his purpose in life. They delve into a deep chat about death. The robot suddenly gets a vision of the being that killed North, Blank, Brando, and others, and starts chanting Bora, just like Epsilon's kid. Meanwhile, Abdullah is having a clandestine convo with a guy at the tornado site. He cautions the guy to be careful retrieving Pluto's body, which he built. The guy finds Pluto, who might just be Uran's robot friend. Uran encourages the robot to use his power to beautify the world, but he's not buying it. He conjures a storm, reviving more flowers. He glitches out. Ochanomizu checks him out and finds his computerized brain missing. Suddenly, a construction droid claims the malfunctioning robot as his body. At the same time, Abdullah meets his robotic partner by a lake, confirming Pluto's location. Pluto rises from the lake, and Abdullah reminds him of his mission: to kill Adam. Episode 4 kicks off with Ochanomizu lounging in a park, guarded by a robot officer named Yujiro. Ochanomizu stumbles upon a robot dog in worse shape than yesterday's leftovers, takes it home, and attempts to play robotic veterinarian. Then, A man from the Ministry of Defense rings him up, asking for the green light to deploy more troops to the Kingdom of Persia. Ochanomizu, in no mood to turn his robots into Rambo, hangs up and returns to his metallic patient. Ochanomizu calls a buddy for some spare parts, only to find out they're as outdated as dial-up internet. Despite his best efforts, he can't save the robot dog. The next day, Yujiro informs Ochanomizu that the dog's owner wants a word. The owner questions Ochanomizu about his emotional state, implying he's felt worse over the robot dog's demise than the robots who perished in the war. Surprise, surprise. The man reveals he's a robot too, none other than the notorious Dr. Goji. Goji demands Ochanomizu send Adam to a tornado hotspot in Japan, threatening him with his skills in crafting killer robots. Ochanomizu, a firm believer in Article 13, the thou shalt not kill for robots, remains skeptical. Goji praises Ochanomizu's almost human robots, but warns of the Pandora's box he's opening. Ochanomizu accuses Goji of seeking revenge, which only makes Goji grin. Suddenly, officers swarm the area as Goji makes short work of Yujiro. Adam arrives, causing Goji to hightail it out of there. As the officers pursue Goji, Adam explains to Bobby that a distress signal from Takashi's robot dog brought him here. The cops find Goji's body, but his computerized brain escapes with a horde of cockroaches like something out of a sci-fi horror flick. Adam tells Ochanomizu that Yuran flew off to Takashi's place following the distress signal. Flashback to Abula's tragic backstory. Family lost, bitterness found. He inquires about Pluto's whereabouts, only to be told the signal's gone kaput. Yuran reaches Takashi's home, ready to assist Bobby. They both eye the tornado Pluto's cooking up, wondering why it's got Bobby so agitated. Ochanomizu wants to spill the beans to Gesicht about Goji being the evil puppet master behind everything. Adam lands at Takashi's home, urging Yuran to evacuate everyone while he deals with the tornado and Pluto. After a whirlwind clash, Yuran finds Adam on the rooftop, only to discover he's kaput. Meanwhile, Gesicht wakes up from a nightmare, comforted by Helena, who suggests he consult Hoffman. On another rooftop, Adolf hesitates to off Gesicht, receiving orders to dispose of Adolf himself, ensuring Gesicht's downfall through public scandal. Gesicht consults Dr. Hoffman about his nightmares and mysterious stalker, with Hoffman advising him to keep him posted and try to enjoy his trip to Japan with his wife. Adolf, seeking a power-up, visits his brother. Suddenly, his car explodes. Someone rushes to inform Gesicht of the incident while he's with Helena at the airport. Helena spots a report about Adam's death, breaks the news to Gesicht, and he's floored. Gesicht retreats to a corner, confirming to us that his latest nightmare featured Pluto taking out Adam. In the dream, Adam tells Gesicht they're two sides of the same coin and asks if Gesicht is the one who killed him. Gesicht faints as we dive into a flurry of scenes with familiar and new faces. He wakes up in a maintenance room and tells Hoffman he's got to split. Meanwhile, inspectors grill Adolf about his explosive car situation. Tawashi's partner mentions Adolf was packing an MZ-390 missile launcher, so they decide to keep tabs on him. In his office, Adolf is fuming that Gesicht is out of reach. Someone tips him off that the anti-robot cult leader wants him gone. Paranoid, Adolf bolts from his office, suspecting it's rigged to blow. He runs into Gesicht, who reveals he's been assigned as Adolf's bodyguard. After mingling with Adolf's family, chatting about his robot fascination, and sweeping his office for bombs, Gesicht leaves Adolf to stew in his office. Adolf confronts Gesicht about his assignment and gives him the green light to dig into his background. While investigating, Gesicht inquires about Adolf's export-import business. Adolf shares some details, then gets glued to the TV, learning Epsilon's creator has been murdered. He tries to tempt Gesicht to check out the crime scene, but Gesicht sticks to his mission. Adolf ups the ante, showing Gesicht intriguing surveillance footage from Karatepa prison in Thracia of a man repeating the names of Bora workers. Adolf suggests Gesicht should focus on this instead of babysitting him. Gesicht questions Adolf on why he's hoarding this intel and identifies the person in the footage as Darius III, the former king of Persia. Epsilon rescues Hoffman from a bomb and warns him he's losing his grip after his creator's death. Meanwhile, Gesicht struggles to reach Hoffman's office. Suddenly, An unknown assailant attempts to assassinate Adolf with a photothermal smart bomb, but Gesicht intervenes just in time. Adolf spills the beans about the anti-robot organization, admitting they killed the robot judge in Berlin. Gesicht asks why they're gunning for him, but Adolf pleads for witness protection and security for his family. We cut to the cult leader, who orders his goons to use the MZ-390 to take out both Gesicht and Adolf. Gesicht reassures Adolf that his wife and kid are safe. He's clueless about Hoffman's whereabouts, but plans to whisk Adolf away to a safe house. Meanwhile, we catch up with Hoffman, Hercules, and Epsilon. Epsilon decides to leave Hoffman with Hercules, refusing to engage the enemy directly. Hercules thinks it's a solid strategy to bait the enemy. Before leaving, Epsilon asks Hoffman about a secret conference he had with two scientists, Dr. Howard, Epsilon's creator, and Dr. Tenma, the mastermind behind the ultimate computerized brain. Hoffman confirms that their mission was to create a robot that could end wars and save Earth. He admits that while he and Howard were transparent with their research, Tenma played his cards close to his chest. Tenma argued that a perfect computerized brain must be capable of suffering, hatred, and error. Epsilon asks where Tenma is and confirms that he's Adam's creator. Ochanomizu tries to call Tenma. Cue flashback. Ochanomizu tells Tenma he's been named his successor at the Ministry of Science. Tenma explains that to comply with Article 13, robots are equipped with a control device to suppress their emotions, stunting their brain development. He leaves, calling Adam a failure, not a masterpiece. The call to Tenma goes unanswered. Hoffman informs Hercules and Epsilon that Tenma vanished into society's underbelly years ago. The trio ponders Tenma's ominous warning and speculates whether he built his dream robot. Meanwhile, Gesicht updates Mr. Lehman. Hercules confirmed Hoffman's safety, and Lehman reveals that the man in Adolf's video is indeed Darius. Gesicht asks if Darius harbors a grudge against Bora's members. Lehman thinks so, given that Persia descended into chaos after Bora's departure. Despite official denials, Bora found a special chip for creating a highly advanced computerized brain, dubbed the Tenma chip. Lehman warns Adolf another group might be after him, advising caution. Adolf dashes to the bathroom, and Gesicht scans the area for threats. After vomiting, a maintenance robot instructs Adolf to kill Gesicht to ensure his family's safety. Adolf smashes the robot. Afterward, Gesicht grabs Adolf and yells at him. Adolf remarks that this is Gesicht's true nature and asks if this is the same rage he felt when he killed his brother, leaving Gesicht baffled. Cut to Ochanomizu, deep in thought about his past encounter with Tenma and Tenma's harsh words about Adam. While Ochanomizu believes Adam is the best robot on the planet, Tenma disagrees, insisting that seething hatred and error are essential for a brain's growth. He believes that creating such a brain could lead to the greatest robot on Earth.